Okay, so just a quick check around the charts of that. Start off with Aussie because it is getting absolutely massacred. Geez, so we saw that big push Friday night. Obviously, this range that it was in all through last week. We had the little dip down and that, and I thought, look, even if we come back down here, we may sort of be able to hold these lows. And obviously, we've just seen it today. We had a little bit of data out just before. I think it was where we are. It's like the Aussie consumer confidence or something, I think. Where we are Tuesday, yeah, Westpac consumer confidence, and as you can see, 2.7 previously down to negative 1.3. Part factor of it all, it's only a low impact bit of data, but it's just adding to the whole sort of situation. So, I mean, Aussie really looking quite sick at the moment. Continues to sort of break down to the through these sort of key support areas. So I've cut a couple of positions now. Yeah, really, it's just a sort of wait and see. There was some pretty good short opportunities. Obviously, hindsight's a beautiful thing. To sort of think after that rejection on sort of Friday night, but I was still in the camp, as I said, with the weekend review that the sort of yield spread was slightly in favour of so the Aussie sort of pushing on a little bit more, and also that I didn't think DXY really sort of had another sort of push in it, but yeah, if we flip across the DXY in 2 seconds and that, we'll see it's had quite a large sort of gap up this morning, and it's pushing right up against the sort of top end of that sort of like range that it's been in for a little bit, and obviously a continued sort of push north on sort of USD and all the crosses you can see, and even now Aussie's sort of coming down a little bit further. So I would say with Aussie we've probably got where we at. If we sort of zoom it out a little bit more, we've pushed through. This was the 38, which we tried to hold of this whole sort of run up from the bottom. So next, if we're going just off the fibs, brings us 50 right down into mid to high sort of 65s. I do think if we go across to this other chart here, I might have a little bit better drawn up. We've got a couple of little measured moves that could potentially be sort of playing out. Sort of just coming to the downside here around sort of 66 or so, just from like this little, if we get down a lower sort of time frame, a little sort of bear flag sort of coming out here. So if we take this move here and then sort of the break of it obviously this morning, that gives us down around sort of 66 handle, which also seems to sort of coincide with a little bit of the sort of previous resistance areas. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a bit of a a bit of a push from buyers sort of coming around this area, but certainly for now, sells are very much in charge. DXY sort of continues to push up to the top side, so pretty much just take the foot off the gas for now, sort of see what happens, and sort of revisit it at another stage. So I flick across to DXY because DXY, as I said, this is a big open here. Well, they had the I think it was Martin Luther King Day yesterday, so they sort of obviously sort of they had a little bit of a push down. So yesterday the open, this is the part that sort of came in, and I was like, oh look, copper's pushing up, the China was pushing down. Aussie actually had a little bit of push up back to try and get up above that 67 handle yesterday, and I sort of like a lot of the market I think just sort of fell into that little trap, and as you can see, just the reversal turnaround has just gone bang, and now that they're all sort of coming back, well, I mean obviously they're still asleep, but as they're sort of coming back from their little sort of break, their extended weekend, we're starting to see this sort of push off a little bit further. So I'm not quite sure where you'd want to put this triangle. Maybe it'd be a shorter position here, but certainly we're right up into this wick zone over here. So this was NFP from the other week, and this is really the confirmation. I think if we go past this, we're going to see some things break. So certainly, yeah, not looking too good for anybody like myself that was sort of dollar short. But I wouldn't be surprised if this sort of just, there's a little bit of a carryover just from the fact that they've just gapped up and run quite quickly. You generally will see these gaps close, so may sort of come back up into this area, and then a little bit of cooling off through the sort of the second half of Asia session, maybe through Europe or so. But certainly, I think you got to respect the idea that if we look at this as a daily now, this looks very much like it wants to sort of break to the top side. If it does sort of keep going up here, as I said, I think 64s are probably most likely the area around here where we can see that there was some pretty keen sort of selling that sort of came down with this last push. If we have a look through here, it's right up against the 61% actually from this last push down. So this is probably, I would say, getting close to your sort of last line of defense sort of through here before you're going to sort of see it just sort of really sort of take off. As I said, the wicks, above the wicks is really sort of where that you just got to sort of confirm that, you know, because sellers pushing down, sellers pushing down. Each time you got this wick here, that's the market obviously sort of pushing it back down. If we're not seeing those wicks, we're not seeing those sellers there anymore. They're obviously depleted, and we're going to be searching up higher to sort of see where the next lot of sellers, or the next level that the market wants to sell it from, seem to be sort of hanging around. So really at the moment, I think it's just, you know, see how far this little move goes, see what happens after it sort of calms down, but certainly quite a few things sort of pushing through. We're seeing US yields sort of pick up a little bit here as well. So yeah, as you can see there, if we go on to the daily with these ones, this was a potential for this was the idea that this was some sort of break of trend and then a back test through here. So certainly if the yields sort of get up above that 410 mark, I'd say that's probably going to coincide with confirmation of US dollar running a bit higher as well. Not too much to say with that one, just a sort of break there. Gold's been holding up relatively well. I mean, it's seeing a little bit of a cooling here and unable to sort of really get through Friday's highs yesterday. It did attempt a couple of times to push past 58, but just couldn't quite get there. It was setting up for a bit of a triangle, but you know, obviously this morning with US dollar running a little bit, it's starting to sort of succumb to it a little bit. If we sort of don't hold probably sort of 49 area, I think that, you know, we may see a little bit of a breakdown. We can sort of definitely sort of see it come back down to this little support area. So I reckon downside you probably might see a little bit of. Let's sort of clear this up a little bit. I would say, yeah, sort of if we break here, which it looks like we're going through now, so take out this wick of 49, I would say down to 43, and then you go, the best you can sort of look for in this instance would be a little bit of a range play coming through here. You go down under 43, and I'd just call that pretty much a fail to the downside. It was looking like it wanted to sort of come through for this nice little triangle, which, you know, if it did sort of come through for the triangle, would have given you a little measured move up to the top side, up to that sort of 73, which is a major breakout level over the top over here. So we'll have to sort of see what happens again, sort of through the rest of sort of Asia and Europe, and obviously when everybody comes back online later on. But at the moment, it's not looking too sort of flash hot. If we flip across copper, and so copper did get that bounce that we thought. So this looks like it's sort of confirming a little bit of this sort of channel that we were talking about. But obviously, this horizontal still coming into effect, and like everything, we're seeing a bit of a sort of a push down on risk, basically, in that it's come this morning. So yeah, so it's come through here. It's rolled over. Look, there's not really too much to say about copper at the moment. Once it sort of gave up this and really sort of tried to get back inside this channel, I think that was the indicator for it there as well. I thought it might have had a little bit of a fake out and push back in, but you know, for now as well, it's very much sort of confirming a bit more downtrend action. So I would say there's not really too much to sort of put through here. I mean, if we can try and sort of pick these lows through the top here, possibly. I'm not a big fan of this little line that I've just put in. But yes, we'll again, you know, we'll have to sort of see. It could just sort of come back down and sort of just take out this big candle that I put in here, so around that sort of 368 level. But I would say pretty much, you know, you're going to have to sort of see sort of like, geez, it's so grindy. It's hard to sort of pick sort of where you'd sort of go, okay, you take out this one and we'll confirm it, because you take out these highs, well, you've got the next ones, you know, just a couple of pips higher, and then boom, 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 all the whole way along. So there's no real sort of clear-cut levels to sort of take from this. But yeah, certainly I think it's a little bit of a sort of a hold off for the moment with copper. And finally, just sort of flip across to China. And China, again, this is what I was saying yesterday. We saw this sort of sell down early, and I was like, okay, because we had a bunch of China data out yesterday as well. And that sort of actually sort of it wasn't too bad in terms of this pair pushing to the top side. It wasn't enough to sort of push it down and hold it, of course. And like all US dollar crosses and that, at the moment we're seeing the US dollar sort of firm up, come into this open. So let me just have a quick look at this. Jesus. Let's pop across to this. I always find this very odd. You see these massive wick down periods like this, which obviously relate to absolutely nothing. This could just be through this one. Let's see if it's... It's just gapped up with nothing here. So yeah, it's a bit odd, these sort of things sometimes. See this, I'm like looking at it, I'm like, what's this large wick that's just come out of absolutely nowhere? Anyway, back to it. Where were we? Yeah, China. So China is pushing out of this little triangle that it was trying to sort of firm up, an ascending triangle here. It does have the RSI to sort of support it if it does push up. We did have a little bit of a negative divergence coming through here, but obviously that hasn't really seemed to phase it too much. And it's just sort of pushed to the top side a little bit more here as well. Realistically, these are the highs that we need to sort of get above to sort of confirm this. And the bigger picture with the China is if you sort of have a look like this, I mean, we are quite sort of overbought here. So, you know, again, I'm still not, despite everything at the moment, I mean, Aussie's been massively underperforming. Even with all the equity markets pushing up and that, Aussie's still been lagging. So that sort of thing. This is an oversight of mine that I've noticed in the past, particularly with Aussie. You know, it runs with risk, like that in a sort of simple term and that. And so when you've got all the other risk running, so equity markets pushing up, and Aussie still isn't performing, it's kind of like, okay, well, you know, what happens when the equity markets roll over? Or what happens when sort of like, you know, like this, US dollar sort of firms up? You're already not buying the Aussie. Well, there's even less chance that you're going to be buying it when equity markets are coming off and actual risk is actually going into risk off mode, or the markets are going into risk off mode. So yeah, certainly that was a bit of a miss on my behalf. I sort of thought I sort of probably put a little bit too much faith in it after that run from the last quarter of last year. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, realistically, in the grand scheme of things, it's still within the sort of you know, the top 50% of retracement from the high. So it's not, you know, breaking new lows necessarily, but you do need to look at Aussie in this sort of potential that if we go, even just do it on a weekly here, this is the thing that sort of kind of worries me a little bit, that we had this high, and these are only marginal, but lower, lower, and then lower. So on a big, broad sense, it could be a bit of a failed breakout kind of thing. And, you know, each time they're only marginally lower, but, you know, it is sort of coming in a couple of pips lower there. So, you know, I mean, it doesn't mean that it's just going to go straight down to here, but it does put it in a pretty sort of precarious position, in that it's not sort of really proving itself at all. So we'll just sort of see how that goes. So starting to see, yeah, US dollars starting to slow down a little bit. We're seeing, we've looked across here, excuse me, back onto China. Okay, so it is rejecting a little bit from that breakout there. I mean, we're only, this is a 1 hour chart and it's only 15 minutes into it. So yeah, that's nothing sort of guaranteed yet. If we can get back below 71745, I would call that a bit of a failed breakout, because that'll be your swing low through this period. But again, there's no point jumping on things too early with it all. All right, anyway, that's about it for me.